spread like Saudi or Arabia, and the more concern that there is about that, the higher the prices are going to go. The Libya premium right now is 20%. That's how much prices have risen since the trouble started.
Just briefly, how does it work? I mean, at the moment, Gaddafi was saying just a couple of days ago that, as far as he's concerned, that the oil fields are still under his control. So where is the money going from these oil sales at the moment?
Yeah. This is one of the big problems. This is the money still goes to the Libyan treasury, but there are negotiations going on in which banks and in which the buyers of the crude could turn the oil into the coffers and into the rebel coffers. But the trouble there is, what bank is going to sign that letter of credit unless foreign governments, for example, the United States, or governments in Europe, recognize the rebel government? No one is prepared to do that as yet. And
in the meantime, as you say, the prices keep going up, and we've had the UK Climate and Energy Secretary warning of a 70s-style oil shock. Are we at that level yet?
We're not at that level yet, but I think we're headed there. It's looking more like 2008. It's looking like the market is going to keep prices very high for a long time. This is because it doesn't look like the unrest is going to end anytime soon. Here we are in March. I would not be surprised if we keep seeing the situation we're seeing into the summer, meaning prices over $100 a barrel and gasoline prices heading up over $4 a gallon as well.
And that presumably affects the state of recovery and economies generally.
It really does. It's a combination of things. So you have signs of recovery, of economic recovery around the world. That gives the signal that there's going to be more demand for oil as economies recover. And at the same time, you've got the concern that there's going to be less supply on the market, less capacity to produce more oil when more oil is demanded. Traders trade on that uncertainty and push the price higher. OK, that was a good, very clear explanation. Thank you very much indeed, Steve Levine, there, for giving us your analysis of the oil situation. Now, the head of the prestigious London School of Economics has resigned amid evidence that the college accepted millions of dollars in donations from the Gaddafi regime. His former students, though, have come to his defence, as AlJazeera's Paul Brennan explains.
The London School of Economics counts some of the world's top political and business leaders among its alumni. But it's the donations of one particular former student, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, which have shaken this university all the way to the top. Sir Howard Davis, the LSE director, quit on Thursday, accepting blame for the school's close links to the Libyan regime.
I decided that I would not stay on because the reputation of the school is my responsibility, and it has, as you rightly say, been damaged. And I think I need to take the responsibility for that.
The LSE Council has commissioned the former Lord Chief Justice, Lord Woolf, to look into the financial dealings with Libya, including a $3.6 million contract to train Libyan officials in leadership skills, a $2.4 million donation from Saif Gaddafi's charitable foundation, and $37,000 from the same foundation for academics to travel to Libya. Sir Howard remains popular among LSE students, most of whom blame his demise on circumstance rather than judgment.
No one condones what Gaddafi's doing. It's terrible, it's disgusting, and we'd be stupid to accept any type of money today. But that money that they gave 5 years ago was to help African development and research in Africa, and it was done through legal channels. There was nothing underhand so far that we know about. So I just think, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, as you say, and it's all just been blown out of proportion, to be honest.
He's extremely unlucky because, you know, it just so happens that now everyone's seeing Gaddafi under a bad eye because of what's happening. He has to take the blame for it. It seems kind of unfair.
I think it's more a publicity issue than an issue of, say, the stewardship of the university.
One student leader says other academics, other universities are equally culpable.
You know, students are actually questioning what's happening at the university, where they're getting their money from, but also, even at the LSE, there are other people who are in the upper echelons of this university who still need to sort of come to terms publicly with what they've done in the past.
Few here believe the LSE is alone among British academic institutions in having accepted past legitimate donations from now deeply questionable sources. And Howard Davis's resignation still leaves many questions unanswered. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera at the London School of Economics.
More protests have erupted in the wealthy Gulf Sultanate of Oman. In the northwestern town of Sohar, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets to demand greater political representation, an end to corruption and higher wages. It's believed that dozens have been killed in the past few weeks of unrest across the country. Anti-government protests have been gaining momentum across Iraq too. Riot police used batons and water cannon to disperse demonstrators on the streets of Basra. Meanwhile, in the capital Baghdad, hundreds converged on Tahrir Square for the second Friday in a row. They're calling for improved services, better pay and an end to corruption. Many walked for miles to reach the protest after the authorities banned cars from entering the city centre. Our correspondent Jane Araf is there.
Thousands of people have walked for hours to come to this square. They're walking around the circle and ending up at the foot of this bridge where the riot police are. Now, these police are here to prevent protesters from going further, and they have taken the unprecedented step of putting concrete blocks at the foot of the bridge. This entire city overnight has been transformed into a fortress. The green zone sealed off, concrete placed around major buildings, and people told they can only walk. Despite that, thousands of people have come to chant that they believe that the government they elected are liars, and they demand better.
Unrest is growing in Jordan too, where thousands of protesters have taken to the streets of the capital, Amman. They're calling for political reforms and a constitutional monarchy. But so far, the new government has rejected calls for change. Nisreen El-Shamaila has the story from Amman.
The voices of Jordanians roar in downtown Amman for the 10th Friday. Their demands, political reforms, tantamount to a constitutional monarchy and a review of King Abdullah's future role, a previously taboo subject.
It is a fair demand because we seek a direction where the monarch does not rule, so that the government is held accountable, that the government has to be elected through a fairly elected parliament. The monarch should be above the authorities, just like the British, Belgian, and Spanish monarchies. This way, the government remains responsible towards the people and the parliament.
They say they want the monarch to retain his position, acting as a unifying force and arbitrator between the Palestinian and Bedouin communities. But they say he would no longer be an absolute monarch, allowing Jordanians to elect their own governments.
The government should be elected and should be given more authority. That's the basis of progress and growth. It is not possible. Can't shoulder all these responsibilities.
Since 1952, the Jordanian constitution was amended 29 times to hand the monarch the sweeping executive powers. Has made it clear that these calls for a constitutional monarchy are completely rejected by his government.
Just before his government won a very close vote of confidence in parliament, Bakhit said a constitutional monarchy in Jordan was simply a non-starter.
The government believes that the talk about a so-called constitutional monarchy at this point in time would affect the balance of Jordan's political system and constitution. This chatter is a violation of the constitution.